What is up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and of course, all my they-them royalty out there. I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. This is the Broke Boys Sports Podcast, NFL edition. Basically, the only thing that I'm doing right now, because doing all the other stuff takes a lot of energy. So, reacting to week 1 of the NFL season, and we're going to power through this, and I mean it. Like, my goal is to get out of here before 8:30, ideally. We'll see what happens, but we got to make this pop off. But for the most part, man, top to bottom, this was a pretty exciting week 1 of the NFL season, which is probably why, if you're familiar with how I used to do the NFL weekly shows, I'll talk about it right now. But if you're familiar, there's a lot of games in the snooze fest category, and we're going to talk about why as we go through all the game breakdowns. So if you don't remember, I break down the games and put them into 3 different categories. Category 1 is snooze fest. Category 2 is the heartbreakers. I think heartbreakers is number 2 today. And then it's the oh my category, where we talk about games that have like an interesting outcome for an interesting reason. And then there's the this is what we're here for games, the games that you watch, and basically the games that are so good that they actually create NFL fans, which is supposed to be the premise of it every single week. Anyway, hit me up on Twitter at FB_playbook. Follow me on Instagram at TheAshtonForever. Follow me on TikTok at the same name, I think, as well. I think it's The Ashton Forever on TikTok as well. I post my mid-basketball clips there. I'm probably going to get back into doing Image of the Week when it comes to like football stuff. There were some really good college football photos I saw this past weekend, but Image of the Week is typically going to be NFL stuff because that's just how it breaks down. Anyway, I'm broke. I'm the broke boy. This is a sports podcast. Thank you for everybody who watched the NFL season preview that I did. That was at the beginning of week 2 of the season. It was literally going on while Thursday Night Football was going on. If you didn't hear my first episode, it got corrupted, and so it actually didn't even record or anything like that. So I had to re-record it basically at the top of week 2 of the. I re-recorded it yesterday, which is Thursday, and posted it, and like 8 people looked at it, which is kind of crazy for a show that. I think I struggled to get like 8 people back in the day, but hopefully those people come back and they stick around, all that kind of stuff like that. Like I said at the end of the episode yesterday, there's some people who met me at the other job that I've been doing, and they actually subscribed and like legitimately did, which I thought was pretty cool. If there are frames dropping, I apologize already. No frames dropping, just an alert that my microphone is muted, but it's not. Anyway, we go to one of my favorite segments. We're going to power through this one as well. It's called Streaks, Peaks, and Ditches. It's a way to look at some cool stuff that happened for maybe some not so prominent players, or really sad stuff that happened for some really bad teams. I think this one so far is all players, but streaks are things that are happening consistently, like week-to-week basis. It's typically going to be players that are getting pretty close to a career year. There was one guy in particular, when we get to the Bengals game, how much he touched the ball absolutely shocked me. There's peaks and there's ditches. So we're going to go through that and shake it out right now. Let's see how it shakes out. Hopefully I programmed it correctly. Off the top, we got a ditch. This one's for Jake Moody. This is week 2 of the NFL season has already started. So if you don't know, Jake Moody used to be the kicker for the San Francisco 49ers. He was previously a 3rd-round pick, which is absurdly high for any kicker in the NFL, just in general, because you never know. Like, there's a massive difference between the college environment and kicking in the pros and all this kind of stuff like that. And spending draft picks on kickers prevents you from, kickers are the highest scoring players individually in the entirety of the NFL every single year, because that's just how, when you kick every single PAT and you kick every single field goal, eventually you become the top scorer on your team. It doesn't necessarily mean they're like the most valuable for getting points on the board a lot of the time, because PATs and field goals add up over time. But now we live in an era where teams expect, like, they get to the 40-yard line, they expect you to be able to go out there and make that kick from the logo. And maybe that's going to change the dynamic of how kickers are expected to do. But as you can see here, it shows since week 10 of last season, this is actually said during the broadcast, right before Jake Moody missed a kick. So it's pretty messed up. The ultimate broadcaster's jinx. Jake Moody has missed 12 of 23 field goal tries. And in case you were wondering, in the game the 49ers played against the the 49ers played against the Seattle Seahawks, he missed 2 more. So he went I think he hit 3. So he went 15 of 26. So a slight uptick, kind of. But anytime you're talking about your kicker's field goal accuracy, and it starts with a 5, like the percentile starts with a 5, that person is cut. That's just how it is. That's how football goes. That's just the way it goes. Even though we had a lot of key missed kicks, like I was surprised Younghoe Koo missed what typically is pretty easy for him. But it's week 1 for everybody, as my friend Snowman said when I sent him an egregious pass interference call. Because, DBs get called for PI if they just breathe on wide receivers nowadays. Moving on, we got a peek. Oh, this is actually incorrect. Whoa. I love it. This is the wrong... see, this is the glitch, guys. This is the thing. I spent all day yesterday working on this, and it's not showing up. There we go. I got a ditch. I had to fix it real quick. I got a ditch in this one. I think this is the second to last one, or I have one more. I know I have one more for sure. Ditch. Bryce Young in his 2 season openers has 7 turnovers and 3 touchdowns. In case you were wondering, yes, that is foreshadowing to how poorly the Panthers played in their week 1 season opener this year against a team that they kind of had a chance to be able to beat, but life comes at you fast, kid. Life comes at us all really fast all the time. Let's see. I'm trying to find the last one, but apparently it's not labeled in here correctly. Let me hide that. This is so weird because it was in here and now it's not. We're gonna go to something else real quick. SPD3. Yeah, here it is. I don't know why I went to that one. So this is my last one. This is peak for streaks, peaks, and ditches. 49ers tight end. His name is Jake Tongas. He has been in the NFL for 2 seasons so far. He's played in 17 games. He just started his 3rd NFL season. If you didn't watch 49ers Seahawks, he was kind of a big deal because for the first time in his NFL career, going into year 3, by the way, game 1 of year 3 for Jake Tongas' NFL career, he finally got a catch. And not only that, he got 3 catches, and one of them was the game-winning touchdown for the San Francisco 49ers to beat a key divisional rival in the Seattle Seahawks. So, great time to finally get on the board. I'd also like to point out just the brutality sometimes of your existence as a player in the NFL. Because tight ends are one of those positions that play special teams a lot of times, and they rarely get on the field, especially when you get drafted to it. He was on the Bears before. Obviously, they had Cole Kmet, so at the top of the heap there. And, technically he's the 3rd tight end for the San Francisco 49ers, but we'll talk about it later. But George Kittle's going to be missing a good chunk of time. I don't know if he's on short or long-term IR, but he hurt his hamstring so badly that he actually went to the sideline and did not even try to go back into the game. He was in street clothes by the time halftime hit. That should tell you how bad the hamstring pull was. Now it's a battle between him and Luke Farrell, who obviously my money is on Luke Farrell. I think I said this on the preview episode, but I picked up Luke Farrell basically because I saw how he was utilized. He was clearly the number 2 on the depth chart, even though Jake Tongas had these crazy catches. He led an entire drive all the way down to catch a game-winning touchdown, and he mossed my guy Reek Woolen, who is a 6'3" corner who runs like a 4'3", who used to play wide receiver. So it's even worse because it just comes off like a freak level of athleticism from Jake Tongas, who is a massive tight end, but he came up with a game-winning touchdown. There you go. And that's all I got for streaks, peaks, and ditches. Actually, I think I got one more. Maybe I have one more. Let's see. No, that's it. That's all I got. We are moving on. I'm moving on. You're moving on with your life. It's time to talk about football, guys. I think that's what we all are here for, what we'd all love to do, and we're going to do it. We'll see if I programmed everything correctly. I am, kind of coming out of retirement. Not really retirement, but I've just been lazy sitting on my butt. But we'll talk about it. I broke the games down into 3 different categories to talk about different things. In an organized fashion, somewhat organized fashion. Let me move this Stanley Cup out of the way. Has Dr. Pepper Zero Cherry in it, which I'm sure is somebody's absolute favorite zero out there. I am not necessarily that guy. I'm a Dr. Pepper. I'm actually a Coke Zero Cherry guy. Mainly because not only does it taste delicious by itself, if you're a whiskey drinker, you mix some Dr. Pepper. It's a Coke Zero Cherry together, and with some whiskey. You got yourself a winning combo. It's actually so good that they put it in the list of premixes that Coke and Jack Daniels consistently are putting out. So, I had to tell my friends about it. They don't believe me when I say it. It's true. Cherry Coke Zero and whiskey. crazy combo. Go like legit elite level combo. And Cherry Coke Zero is like really readily available too, because the other zeros are kind of, hit or miss when you go to different places. Anyway, enough about whiskey and Coke. Let's talk about some football. Let's talk about the games that I actually did not have fun watching at all. It's called. This is my category called Snooze Fest. If you can't read the print over here on the side of my head, I will tell you this: I'm going to talk about every single one of these games. I'm going to power through them though on the Snooze Fest category. So the Rams played the Texans. Final score is 14-9. What I saw, I came into this game expecting pretty much terrible pass protection. There were 3 sacks given up by the offensive line There were 3 sacks given up by the Houston Texans offensive line in the course of this game, but 2 of them were like in the back half of the game where the Texans were trying to get back into it because this game was 9-7 at halftime with the Texans in the lead. Oh, I should have led with that. The Texans did not score in the second half of this game, just to give you an idea of how great the new offense was going. They do have a new offensive coordinator. They fired Bobby Slowick, a guy who was like in line to become a future head coach if last season had gone a little bit better. But you know how the NFL goes. You have one bad year, and they treat you like you are the plague, which apparently we're cool with now based off of how some people's opinions about vaccines work. Anyway, Texans 9-14. Vast majority of this game in the first half. Biggest thing I took away from it was the Rams have a thorough understanding of who they are as a team. They are a run-based team that passes the ball really well. Kyron Williams got ran into the ground on this one, and I see why he's the number one guy. That dude was bouncing off, and the Texans obviously have a really, really top-tier defense. Although it didn't really show itself at certain points, they only gave up 14 points in this game. 4 quarters of football against Matthew Stafford, Super Bowl winning quarterback who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer when it's all said and done. And most importantly, he has a magical time chamber that he sleeps in, like an anime villain. He has like a magical rehabilitation chamber that he sleeps in. And they only gave up 14 points to that guy, I really wonder how much their sales popped off. Like Immortal or whatever that company was. I wonder how much their sales popped off when they were like, Matthew Stafford uses it and he sleeps in our Winnebago that we have pulled up at Rams practice. Whatever. Good chunk of this game. The big thing to take away from it, Rams, Puka Nacua, still very good at football. Matthew Stafford, still very good at football. Took him the first half of this game to kind of warm up and also figure out when the Texans were the Rams were timing up the Texans' blitzes really, really well. There was very few times where the blitzes actually created pressure on Matthew Stafford, and so it created this gap of like the wide receivers are able to run free across the Texans zone until Matthew Stafford finds a seam that he wants to throw the ball to. And of course, Puka Nacua essentially has like telepathy with Matthew Stafford at this point, and it shows. It shows in a lot of ways. First half of this game is 9-7. All of the Texans' points are off of field goals. Nick Chubb, by the way, already, in my opinion, won comeback player of the year. Without question. Some of the moves he was pulling off out there, he had a rush for like 16 yards where he got hit like 5 times. Legitimately 5 times. 2 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and a DB hit him on the way to like a 16-yard run, and he just kept running forward. He is not only a guy who works ridiculously hard in the weight room to get the level of strength that he does in his smaller body, but clearly has something different in terms of his like mentality, and of course like genetically obviously he's different than a lot of human beings, but he was amazing in this game. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. I watched every single run that he had. He was the best running back for the Texans in this game, and that's insane to say for a guy who has literally had both of his knees blow up. Like legitimately just destroy everything in his knee. He's come back and he's playing in the NFL at an elite, and I say at a really high level. He went from probably the best running back in the NFL overall with the Browns, a team that was terrible, to now he's still able to play at a starting role. He's still an RB1 based off of week 1. We'll see what happens as time goes on because there's going to be a long period of time where Joe Mixon's not available. We'll see how long the Texans are going to draw down until they finally announce that Joe Mixon's probably not going to play this season. But the Rams, nonetheless, not only Puka Nacua, but Whittington did a great job. We saw a lot of him at the end of last season. The Rams defense was still pretty fucking good. A lot of it is centered around their ability to generate pressure, and they also play a good chunk of press man, which I think is pretty cool because a lot of the teams that were playing like actual press man defense seemed like they did a great job of disrupting a lot of the routes from the tighter formations because the DBs were not focused on like passing receivers or passing pass catchers to another defender. They were focused on like staying with one guy the entire time they were on the field. Moving on, the Rams killed it. Great running performance up front. The Texans holding that team to 14 points, despite the fact that their offense essentially shut off in the second half. There was a crazy, like, legitimately, it's going to be an interception that you see at the end of the season. It's one of the best picks I saw in week 1. It's going to be one of the best picks you see throughout the course of the year. And the Texans came up short in this one. I know it's super disappointing because you think the offense is going to be super powered, but there was a lot of bright spots in the first half of this one. The second half, I can't really do too much for you. There were some big plays, but obviously when they got closer to the red zone, they just were like non-existent as an offense. But moving on, Rams win 14-9. That was a boring game to me for how long I went on about it. The Packers played the Detroit Lions. This one was interesting. There's a clip going around of the Lions' new defensive coordinator explaining what happened. He did it in a pretty intense way that I think is a great sign. It was a healthy amount of intensity. Only time will tell as to whether or not the Lions players are going to respond to this one. 27-13, by the way, that second touchdown that they scored in this game was insane. You need to go look it up. I'm not going to sit here and try and waste your time describing it. It is, if Odell Beckham Jr. did that, it would have, it's a caliber of catch that looks like it could rival Odell Beckham Jr.'s catch overall, but the guy who made it was not OBJ, not playing for the Giants, and not playing in primetime when he made that crazy catch, right? That's a career starter type stuff. The Lions, still, I didn't like the pitch count in terms of like the number of reps that, the number of reps between Gibbs and Montgomery, I didn't like it. I wanted to see a little bit more Montgomery because it felt like Gibbs spent a bunch of time running to the outside of the tackles, and Montgomery does a really good job of running up the gut and testing the abilities of the defensive linemen. The Green Bay Packers, on the other hand, like I said in the preview episode, I believe they're going to the Super Bowl this year, and I picked the Ravens to win based off of the last 2 games I've seen from them because they played on Thursday Night Football. I don't know about that. We'll see, but the Packers look like the best team in the NFL. And knowing how good the Detroit Lions are talent-wise and how they essentially dismantled them for the vast majority of this game, Jared Goff made some really good catches. There was a lot of attacking the edges of the field, but very little going over the middle. They forced Detroit to pass the ball to beat them. They shut down the run up front, and it was not the D-line that did it. It was the linebackers. Quay Walker actually looked amazing out there, which is great because, he was good last year. And, rookie year, a little sketchy. But now he's clearly taking another step. And Edgerrin Cooper, same thing. Crazy stuff we were seeing from the linebackers up front. They were swarming every single running back. Every time a running back got tackled, there's like 4 guys on top of him before he even hit the ground. That's how intense their defense is overall. And the Packers, like I said before, I picked Jordan Love to win the MVP. The Packers look like the best team in the NFL, especially because they've played 2 games and they've dominated in both of them so far, and they dominated 2 previous playoff teams who went pretty deep in the playoffs as well in the process. It looks like it's their year, and this game just kind of proved it because the Detroit Lions did not play terribly. They just couldn't find any consistency throughout the course of the game, and they got smoked essentially in this one. So, Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers. I'll keep it pretty simple on this one. The Panthers turned the ball over 3 times. I'm sure the hate for Bryce Young, I'm sure Bryce Young has uninstalled every form of social media from his phone. And rightfully so. There's nobody saying anything positive about Bryce Young, especially considering I think he gave a lot of people hope towards the back end of the season that he was understanding Dave Canales' offense, but it felt like and it looked like he took a step back in this game, and that may be because later on we find out that the Jacksonville Jaguars are a top-tier defense, but more than likely it is because Bryce Young is struggling to establish connections with new wide receivers because there's Tyrell McMillan, who is a big deal. I saw Joe Persons, who's like the guy for the Panthers for me, and he thinks that Tyrell McMillan looked like a wide receiver 1. Chuba Hubbard barely had any modicum of success throughout the course of this game, and it wasn't his fault. It was just the simple fact that clearly the Jaguars fully understood what the Panthers were trying to do. The Panthers still have offensive line problems, and like I said, I think I said this a couple times last year, Bryce Young is in a very similar situation with Tua. Was in his first 2 years in the NFL. Tua's second year in the NFL, he had the worst offensive line in the league, without question. And it was not his fault. It was like legitimately, they're snapping the ball and two people are already in the backfield, right? But yeah, the Jacksonville Jaguars dismantled the Carolina Panthers. Jags fans still hate it. It didn't look like what they wanted it to look like, which they may have a point later on in the season, but as of right now, if you're a Jags fan, you should just be happy you won the game. Just saying. There's not going to be very many easy games for the Jaguars, and it's a good sign that they made this game look relatively easy. The Cardinals played the New Orleans Saints. This one, very interesting in how it shook out. Very boring to get to where we ended up at the end of it, which was a Spencer Rattler near game-winning drive. Dead serious. I know that's a crazy thing to say out loud, but it is true. Spencer Rattler had the ball on a drive down the field. Thinking about quad ball, down the field, and it came down to like one throw would have been the difference between them winning and losing the game. But overall, the Saints defense looked a lot better. Kool-Aid McKinstry might be that guy. It was a great matchup. I hope somebody releases the camera footage of like just I used to do that segment called pay-per-view where it's like in this game. It's cool that you watch this game, but I would pay you like $2 extra if you just had the camera isolated on these two guys going at it. And it was Kool-Aid McKinstry and Marvin Harrison Jr. in this one. Marvin Harrison has a really good game overall. Spencer Rattler actually distributes the ball pretty well. Juwan Johnson is the biggest target of the wide receivers for the Saints, and so he's going to get more attention from Spencer Rattler overall. Thought the offensive line didn't look absolutely horrendous, but that could also be a product of the Cardinals not necessarily having like a lead pass rusher overall. The Saints defense did a good job of wrapping up one of the most amazing stories in the NFL, James Conner, who, if you remember, went to Pitt, survived cancer, played while receiving cancer treatment in college, got drafted, has done an amazing job essentially since he left Pittsburgh. He's been amazing. But overall, they bottled James Conner up, which is really rare to see. I will say this, and I like to say it every single time because I needed to catch on. Nobody said it throughout the course of the game on the broadcast, and I thought it was a big miss. Mark Sanchez calls James Conner Concrete Conner, and I think we need to stick with that because he does run like he is built out of concrete, like he bounces off people, and people bounce off him. Cardinals in this one, they went out there and they took care of business. There were some great defensive plays. Obviously, Budda Baker is one of the best safeties in the NFL. He got a crazy interception in the first half of this game that essentially shut down any hope that the Saints were going to get like some sort of momentum to move forward, and it showed. It was pretty. The Cardinals dominated the first half of this game, and in the second half, the Saints kind of turned it on, which is kind of like the universal theme for some of these games we've been seeing throughout the course of some of the games you see throughout the course of week one. Monday Night Football was like that. J.J. McCarthy playing in his first NFL football game. He looks a little shaky in the first half, and then all of a sudden in the second half, he's just dealing. That happens. Same thing with probably the game of the entire regular season, and it's only week one, the Ravens versus the Bills. It's always nice when a big-time primetime game doesn't disappoint, and it actually lives up to the hype and actually does more than the hype does. But good win from the Cardinals. They did let the Saints back into this one, which was kind of tough, but I think if you're a Saints fan, obviously Saints fans have been dealing with a lot of bad stuff for a long time, and their mentality is like super negative right now, and most people don't believe in Spencer Rattler, which is understandable. He's not giving you anything very much to believe in. A lot of that is centered around the fact that he hadn't had very many opportunities to play. But having Alvin Kamara, Chris Olave, Juwan Johnson, and Rashid out there could go pretty far if somebody can go out there and make it happen in terms of putting it all together. We'll see, especially with the offensive line play. We'll see as time goes on. The defense looked like the best part of the Saints in this game, and it showed in the score. They only gave up 20 points. Moving on, Commanders dismantled the New York Giants. This was a lot. Okay, so I'll say this much. This game is a lot closer if the offense for the Giants does literally anything. They scored 6 points, which is nothing short of a miracle based off of what I watched of the game, because this is the first game that I watched to start the day. It was the one that was on. So if you guys don't know, I live in Houston. So basically what happens here is if the Texans play in a different time slot and the Cowboys don't play on Sunday, I get a different CBS game from some random spot. And so I get Commanders, Giants to start the day. And I think I got Steelers, Jets as well, which was, I got to watch two games at once because my primary team was not on television, which is nice. It's always my favorite day when the Cowboys don't play in the middle of the day. So like if the Cowboys play like Sunday Night Football or something like that, or the late slot, it's great for me. If they play the second slot, I automatically get that game no matter what. And I actually hate watching the Cowboys play football most of the time. So not that I hate the Cowboys, I actually don't think that they're going to be that bad this season, but we'll see. Commanders, this was, I think the stat that I pulled up, I have it on my sheet, but I'm not going to look at it because I think I recall it off the top of my head. The Commanders led in week 1, led the NFL in plays that were 10 yards plus with 19 in this game. So that'll let you know exactly what you needed to know happened in this game. They tore them apart because they just didn't have the juice, man. On offense, because balance is paramount in the NFL, especially when you talk about, like, you know, coming into this season, we're all talking about how great the Giants defense looked, because it does look really good, especially up front with the pass rush. But if you get 12 possessions in a row without the opposing offense scoring, eventually you're going to find a lot of success because the defense is going to get tired from only getting like a 2 or 3 minute break. Debo looked good in the back half of this game. I did like how Cliff Kingsbury was distributing the ball around a little bit more. There's also, obviously, with the Merritt situation, if you didn't see, I'm sure it's official by now, but it looked like Austin Eckler tore his Achilles. He immediately grabbed for the back of his ankle when he went in for a cut on week 2. So that means McCaskey Merritt becomes the most valuable fantasy running back in the league, and he also is just the definitive number 1 running back for Washington. Also, a tough time to trade away Brian Robinson 2 weeks ago to the 49ers for the Commanders. Just saying. I'll say it and I'll leave it at that. I know he didn't look good sometimes last season, but now you're down not only Austin Eckler, but you're having a rookie at your starting running back position. New offensive line looked relatively good. They had some, I think Commanders fans got familiar with Laramie Tunsil and how he gets called for false starts pretty consistently throughout the course of games. I think it's worth it for how good he protects overall. A lot of Texans fans hated it. They used to say that was why we lost games, and I was just like, that's not how football works. Anyway, Commanders 21, Giants 6. That was pretty easy. Bengals 17, Browns 16. This one was a little crazy. AFC North, classy battle. I'll say it right now. I'll be honest, man. I was thoroughly surprised at how good the Browns played in this one. The Browns defense, everybody thought it was going to be pretty bad because I don't think they don't have Jeremiah Wusu-Koramoah, JKO. They don't have him, JOK, sorry. They don't have him, and he's one of the best linebackers in the NFL. And they looked really good overall in this game. If I'm to be a person that believes that the Bengals, because they didn't make the playoffs, have an easier schedule, and on top of that, they are supposed to be a playoff team because they've played just a little bit better, this was either a game where you chalk it up to their AFC North game. This is the AFC North battle, and they're going to play each other pretty close no matter what, even if they go on to have terrible seasons as both teams in this one. But this one overall, pretty good. Shocked at how good Chris Brown played. I didn't think Chris Brown was very good last year, but a lot of people were really high on him. This actually happens a lot with Bengals running backs for me. I didn't think Joe Mixon was all that good when he got his extension, but he panned out really well, not only for the Bengals, but for the Texans as well. Now he's hurt on IR, but nonetheless, I think it's something to be said about how good he was. But that part of this game was important. The Bengals overall, there wasn't a lot of Jamar Chase going crazy on him. It was more motion that we saw out of the offense to get guys open, because there was a lot of times Jamar Chase's split out the widest wide receiver, motions back inside, and essentially gets a free run on a crosser. Joe Burrow dials up a bunch of stuff to beat the zone from the Browns overall, but luckily the Browns are not afraid to play press man defense, and I think that's what kept them in this game overall. There was a lot of great footage of Denzel Ward versus Jamar Chase, and he was in his ass. He was in his pocket. Jamar Chase should check if he still has his wallet, because I'm pretty sure Denzel Ward does. And he was with him stride for stride like that. Denzel Ward got called for multiple penalties in this game for being too close to Jamar Chase. Legitimately, there was a PI situation where the ball seemed uncatchable to me. It was called pass interference. I posted it on my Snapchat story, and a guy who's like a high school ref that I know, one of my former teammates, was just like, yeah, man, this is defensive holding. Don't think that's PI. But he was with them stride for stride, and then they both put their hands up in the air and they called PI on the defensive back because that's how the NFL works. Other than that, Trey Hendrickson looking good. I think he had 2 sacks in this game, and one of them was like a 15-yard loss. But Joe Flacco. Is Joe Flacco elite? Somebody had to say it. I'll say it. Anyway, my notes that I had on this one, Joe Flacco overall, I thought did an amazing job, especially to start off this game. The offense looked super effective. They have a rookie tight end in Fannin with David Njoku. They had Dylan Sampson, who's the rookie running back. Jerome Ford looks like he has been left to the wayside because Quinshon Judkins practiced earlier this week. If you didn't hear, Quinshon Judkins, as you can tell, I'm not accustomed to saying his name out loud. I just read it a lot. Got caught up in an investigation, I think that was related to domestic violence or murder or something like that, but he got cut by the Browns after they drafted him in like the second round, and now he's back on the team. It doesn't look like there's going to be any suspension for him either, but he's been practicing, which probably means that Jerome Ford for the next couple weeks is going to be RB number 2 until Judkins, they feel comfortable putting him in there. He knows his pass protections and stuff like that. Then more than likely Jerome Ford will be slipping back to number 3, and in the position that he had in week 1, he only got 8 carries. So that tells you everything you need to know. Dylan Sampson looked really good out there in terms of what he was able to do as a wide receiver, what he was able to do as a receiver in general. Jerry Jeudy had some key plays. One of those key plays, very much so, and I know a lot of people don't like Steve Smith Sr., but he kind of had a point about Jerry Jeudy sometimes. He has key drops in key situations. What would have been the game-winning drive on this in this game resulted in a drop from Jerry Jeudy as he was going over the middle. Whether it was because he thought a safety was coming from the opposite direction to absolutely destroy him is not for me to determine. I'm not an NFL wide receiver, but it looked like it from over here. But yeah, it feels like the Browns have a lot of power offensively, and Joe Flacco, to start the game, was kind of slinging it down the field. But as time went on, the average depth of target got shorter and shorter and shorter. A lot of curl routes being hit, and I think that's part of why. Obviously, when you're a team, you want to build around like a younger quarterback who's willing to throw the ball further down the field. I do believe Joe Flacco still got that cannon. He's too smart for his own good in some cases. But he even got outside the pocket and ran a little bit. You know what I mean? I think he got like a 4-yard gain or something like that. But it was good enough to help the Browns get like a first down. So willing to do whatever it takes. It does look like it's going to be a long time before you see any backup quarterbacks coming into the game for the Cleveland Browns, which is good. Time on the bench to learn from a guy who's really good at playing his position without having the athletic tools that the younger quarterbacks have at their disposal. Learning the offense, which seems to be really centered around the Browns' offense, a lot of motion, a lot of tight formations and exploding out. Double tight end formations at times because that Fanning guy looked like he was basically playing wide receiver, which I think is pretty cool. This was it. I said in the preview that I was going to point this out. Noah Fant got the first catch of this game. If you don't know who Noah Fant is, he was the one that was foretold that never showed up. He was the chosen one, but not foretold. I don't know how to describe that correctly. But Noah Fant went to Iowa with George Kittle. They were the 2 best tight ends in all of college football in the country. They both got drafted the same year. Noah Fant essentially has been a giant blocking tight end for the vast majority of his entire career. In this game, I have never seen him catch more passes. He actually caught a touchdown in this game. He looks like, I don't know, man, breakout season. I feel like it's happening. They have Mike Gesicki, obviously, for the Bengals, but Noah Fant is a guy who has all the physical attributes of what you would think an explosive tight end will look like, because I think he physically comps to Gronkowski, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously has stupid strength because he's a blocking tight end. But he was on the Seahawks last year, and their offense is not centered around passing the ball to tight ends. It never has been. Even in the Legion of Boom era, there was never like a real, like legit, like superstar tight end for the Seahawks. But Obviously, the Bengals are a team that loves to pass the ball. I think Mike Gesicki had like his third or second best season ever as a player in the NFL in his first year with the Bengals. So they might have found 2 offensive weapons to unlock here. So it was a lot of this game, despite the score, a lot of offense back and forth. Great defense overall. There was 2 missed kicks in this one and 2 crazy interceptions that basically fucked the Browns out of this win. So I'm going to be honest with you, based off of the fact that one of those interceptions did not seem like it was Joe Flacco's fault. In those 2 kicks, there's not really much you can do about it other than make the kicks. It makes me wonder, like, what the deal is. You know what I mean? Like, it makes me wonder, like, what's the deal with both of these teams? Only time will tell, though. Heartbreaker category moved on. That was the last game in the Snooze Fest category. I promise we're going to power through here. Heartbreaker category, this was pretty simple. The Colts scored on every single possession that they had in this game. You can blame that on the offense. You can blame that on the defense. I'll tell you this much right now. At one point, this game was 17-0 because the Dolphins had run 3 plays at one point. It was a catch made. I'm sorry. It was a pass attempt from Tua that went too high in a cover 3, it looked like, because there was a DB underneath the receiver immediately, and then the safety just dropped down and intercepted the ball as if like Tua couldn't see him, which I can get it. Lucas Oil has like weird sight lines or whatever, but it was a pass over the middle of the field into a really tight window. That becomes an interception. The Colts go down and score that because it happens in the Dolphins' red zone, I believe, or their own red zone. They end up scoring it. Dolphins get the ball back. They run the ball one time, and then the third play in this sequence is a fumble, a strip sack of Tua Tagovailoa, and the Colts recover and score off that one. So it was 17-3 immediately. They scored a touchdown on their first drive. They scored a touchdown off of They scored a field goal and a touchdown off 2 turnovers, 17-3. Crazy work to expect somebody to come back from that, especially with the current condition and state of the Miami Dolphins. You want to know how bad it is, folks? You know what the Dolphins did this week on Monday when they got back in the office? They did what is considered to be the cardinal sin of all of sports. They had a players-only meeting, and it was week 1. If that doesn't tell you everything you need to know what's going on, I don't know what is. I don't know what the deal is. You're in the locker room all the time with each other. Most people have each other's phone numbers. Y'all have team meetings, all that kind of shit like that. It's week 1 and we got a players-only meeting. This is either going to be really awesome or it's going to really suck. And if you are a ball knower, not just football, but just sports in general, you know, more often than not, the players-only meeting this early in the season either means y'all going to the Super Bowl or everybody going to be fighting each other at the end of this season, and the Dolphins will have like 3 wins. So, the countdown clock, the time is ticking on the amount of time that Tyreek Hill is going to remain a Miami Dolphin. Don't know who would want to trade for him, especially considering, you know, you got to be, when you're in Tyreek's situation, or when you're a team that's thinking about trading for Tyreek Hill, you got to be really concerned about, like, people trying to fix games by getting to him, because pretty much every paycheck he has immediately goes to the 17 children he had last season. So, yeah. Don't know what the deal is. All those ladies hope they got that deal in writing. He's got a divorce coming up, and I can guarantee you that ref does not care about them 7 kids that he had. You know, I'm sorry, I said ref. That judge does not care about them 17 kids that he had, and I tell you who doesn't care even more. His ex-wife, who got cheated on 7 times in 1 year. So, moving on, Colts, Dolphins. This was crazy because I literally was in the Colts Reddit talking about how Daniel Jones' only good year was when Saquon Barkley was healthy. And then somebody responded, who does he have around him? And then a bunch of people got into like a discourse. I checked out of it. It was a Saturday. I had other stuff to do. And I checked out of it. Anyway, Daniel Jones looked really good in this one. I'm not going to take that away from him whatsoever. I will say this. It also kind of absolves Shane Steichen, because I used to think he sucked at his job because he couldn't figure out how to get an immensely talented quarterback to go out there and do what he needed to do. Obviously, the older folks have been, saying that Anthony Richardson's got some growing up to do when it comes to preparing and playing as an NFL quarterback. It seems like this game, in this moment, proves that. Maybe the Dolphins suck. Maybe the Colts are about to be Super Bowl champions. One of the two things is going to happen. I don't know which one it is. We're going to see. Moving on. The oh my category. I think I had a couple games in here and I only put one down. No, I have two games in here. We're going to talk about it. The Raiders played the Patriots. This was good for both of the teams that were involved in this, and that rarely happens. So the Patriots didn't look like ass in this one. A lot of people thought they were going to be ass. It was a tough start to the career for Will Campbell because I think he gave up like 4 pressures, a sack, and then a strip sack at one point. So that's tough. That's tough because, Will Campbell had a lot of questions about whether or not he was going to be able to have the arms long enough to pass protect in the NFL. He did have a tough time. Harold Landry went the fuck off in this game, though. Harold Landry is a defensive end who came from Tennessee to the Patriots, so clearly Mike Vrabel's favorite, and he showed why. I think he had like 2.5 sacks in this game, which is wild. You should go back and look at him. The moves that he put on the tackle was pretty primo. And then he had a bull rush one that I think a lot of people who are fans of violence would appreciate. But the Raiders in this one, I'll say this much. You want to talk about flexing. I feel like Pete Carroll may trust Geno Smith more than he trusts Russell Wilson ever at any point. He threw the ball 34 times in the rain on the road versus a team that they probably thought they were going to beat. But yeah, Jacoby Myers, I'm sure Jacoby Myers will not be requesting his trade, not be pushing for the trade anymore. He had a crazy day. He has faith in Geno Smith. I think Jacoby just wants more money, and they should give it to him because he very clearly is very good. This is also a revenge game for Jacoby Myers. If you don't recall, the first 4 years of Jacoby Myers' career he spent with the New England Patriots as they were in shambles. I think he had 1 year with Tom Brady, and then every year after that was with Cam Newton and Mac Jones and all that kind of stuff like that. So he went to the playoffs one time, but he had 0 touchdowns, and he literally had 0 touchdowns for 4 years in the NFL. It was just kind of wild to think about as a wide receiver who was playing as much as he was for him to have 0 touchdowns. And it seems like, he caught, I think he had a 3 touchdown day when he was a Patriot, and then he moved on to free agency, and in his first game as a Raider, he caught a touchdown. So it was he had 4 touchdowns, 4 touchdowns over 5 years, and one of them came when he moved immediately to another team because he clearly was very good and was not being utilized correctly. So Raiders, Patriots in this one, overall, this score should be a lot worse, but the Patriots defense actually showed up and showed out. They killed it up front in terms of their coverage down the field. There was a lot of great man-to-man coverage from the DBs because the pass rush was getting there. Like I said, Harold Landry had 2.5 sacks, right? But overall, the Raiders seemingly had as much time as they wanted in the pocket, and Geno Smith was doing a good job of dealing it out, man. He has it clearly, when he throws the ball, he has a lot of faith in the wide receivers that are on the Raiders, which is a problem for the Chiefs. The Raiders having a little too much faith in themselves is a massive problem for the Chiefs overall. They've already got a problem with the Chargers being pretty good, and now the Broncos have come around as well, and the Chiefs look like they're on the downslope, while the Broncos, the Raiders, and the Chargers are all on the up and up. But only time will tell, and you got to play the games to see what happens. But that one, and my oh my category. Speaking of the Broncos, I had the Broncos in this one. 20-12 was the final score in this one. We had a lot of teams scored 20 points in this. If you couldn't tell, most of the games that were pretty boring, a lot of field goals kicked in those. So the Titans showed themselves to be smart enough to know that they are a running team as a football team as of right now. They gave the ball a lot to Tony Pollard. They had a lot of flare routes. They had a lot of out routes from the backfield for the young quarterback to go out there and throw. Then there was the attempts to throw the ball further than 5 yards. Those attempts did not go well, is the nice way to phrase it. I think the Titans led the NFL in drops in week 1, and they're probably going to lead the NFL in drops when the season is over with. They do have a wide receiver. I think his number is number 11, but his last name is DK. He looked like he was the most promising out of the guys who were out there on the field. Calvin Ridley had an interesting day. It's pretty easy for the Broncos to figure out who to key in on as a wide receiver when you have the wide receiver core of the Tennessee Titans. So, like I said before, the most impressive part about this was how well the Titans played defense in response to the Broncos. The Broncos didn't really get any big explosive plays until the second half of this game. RJ Harvey looks legit. And on top of that, J.K. Dobbins still out there doing the thing, still mixing it up. Pass rush pressure from the Titans was pretty impressive. That was the thing for me. The Titans actually played really good defense in this game, and that's what kept it close. How long will that last while they wait for the offense to figure out how to operate correctly? Don't know. I would say not Not much longer, but starting off the season with a one-possession loss to a team that people are saying is going to go to the Super Bowl or has a Super Bowl aspirations, Super Bowl possibilities, believing in Bo Nix, I think it's a good start, especially considering the offense basically did jack shit. So, yeah, that's a good way to start. That's a good way to do it, man. Just to give you an idea of how bad it was for Cam Ward out there, the wide receivers, I say wide receivers specifically because we talked about how the swing routes and the flare routes were working for the running backs a little bit. They ran a couple of screens. The beginning of the fourth quarter, the wide receivers, every wide receiver on the Tennessee Titans combined together had 3 catches. So, yeah, I leave it at that. That game was an oh my situation because the Titans clearly outperformed my personal expectations for them, and that could mean something down the road. The Broncos did not look great in this one, but they figured out a way to win it. Moving on to the this is what we're here for category. My favorite category, these are the games that were fucking insane, that were amazing. Eagles-Cowboys came down to the, we can sit here and talk about the crazy shit that happened at the beginning of the game. If you haven't heard by now somehow, I don't know how that's possible. Jalen Carter saw Dak Prescott spit on the ground in front of him, which I guess was eventually going to be the line of scrimmage where Jalen Carter was going to have to put his hand in the dirt. And he thought he was and Jalen Carter said he thought Dak Prescott was spitting at him. And so Jalen Carter did the only natural thing to do, and that's spit on Dak Prescott, and he got ejected before the first snap of the game, along with a major injury for the Eagles during special teams for the kick return. So, great start to what eventually ended up being a really good win for the Eagles. The pressure from the Cowboys was not okay. The coverage from the Cowboys was really good. The defensive pressure from the D-line, not great. There was a lot of times where Jalen Hurts couldn't get the ball down the field. Right? And so he took off and ran. If this was any other quarterback in the NFL, vast majority of the time, the Cowboys are probably going to win that game. Unfortunately for them, Jalen Hurts is fully okay with being the vulture that everybody knows that he is. If you don't know, that's a fantasy term for a person who steals touchdowns. But yeah, Jalen Hurts did exactly what he was supposed to do in this game. It felt like A.J. Brown got like 0 catches in this one. Jahan Dotson was the number 1 wide receiver for the Eagles in this game, and I have a strange feeling that is not going to sit well with many people who catch the ball on the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, still insane. Offensive line play, felt like it was pretty good up front, especially to give running lanes for Saquon Barkley, who killed it in this one overall. The Cowboys looked pretty good, man. I'm not even going to lie. Came down to the final drive of this game in the fourth quarter, and CeeDee Lamb had a couple of opportunities, and you tell me, hit me up on Twitter, FB_playbook, or hit me up on Instagram at @TheAstroForever. You tell me if those catches were catchable on the part of CeeDee Lamb, who's supposed to be like a top 3 wide receiver in the NFL. He is one of the best receivers in the NFL, and that would have been a crazy moment if he'd been able to come up with that diving catch that would have put them in field goal territory, but most importantly, deep into the red zone of the Eagles, who had an injured secondary. So, who held it together for a good chunk of time. I mean, only giving up 20 points to a Dallas Cowboys offense is one thing. They kind of locked up George Pickens. Some of that may be due to the whole thing of like Dak only looks at CD when the pass plays happen. Whatever. Chargers Chiefs on this one. Chargers, like we said in the preseason, like I said in the NFL preview, the Chargers are the biggest mystery, I think, in the NFL because they look like they're on the way up and the Chiefs are on the way down. And if there was one team in the AFC West that I feel like could have a legitimate shot of taking the division title away from the Kansas City Chiefs, it is the Chargers. And it showed itself in this game. It didn't obviously losing Xavier Worthy was a massive blow to the Kansas City Chiefs offense and their ability to be functional, but Patrick Mahomes threw for like almost 300 yards in this game, man. A lot of action on the run because he was under heavy pressure and every duress, which is great for the Chargers up front because it means their pass rush is like actually back doing their thing. And further down the field, it felt like the Chargers were in pretty good control of this game, vast majority of it, and the Kansas City Chiefs tried to do the thing last year where they come back on you at the last second, right? And that was without Omarion Hampton really doing too much in the course of this game. And I think that, you add that back into the puzzle of what makes the Chargers such a good team. Having Omarion Hampton have a great day on the ground is going to be the thing that takes the Chargers to the next level. So, great game overall, really fun to watch. It was on this crazy stream from the NFL YouTube stream. They had all the influencers involved with it. They were very clearly trying to make an attempt to be like, hello, fellow youths. And I respect that because guess what? Kids got money too now. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Atlanta Falcons. This game came down to the final drive on this one. It came down to a kick from Younghoe Koo, which would have tied it up and sent it into overtime. But before that, the Falcons showed a lot of tenacity on defense like we suspected they would. Secondary play was pretty on point. Despite the fact that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers had a couple of big explosive plays, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were able to piece this one together. Bucky Irvin didn't get off to a great start overall on this one, but they were able to chip away at the Falcons defense to put 23 points up on the board, which is a great showing for the defense overall. But the most important part about this is the Falcons came into this game, knew that the Buccaneers were going to try and shut down Bijan Robinson. So you know what they did? They said, hey man, you can shut down that one starting running back we have, but can you shut down the other starting running back that we have? Tyler Algier, who I think has gotten the short end of the stick since Bijan Robinson showed up. It feels like there's been a distinct effort in this game in particular to utilize every good offensive player that they have, and it was to get Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson on the field at the same time so that Bijan could split out in open space and do the thing where he goes left, you go right, and then all of a sudden he's 10 yards down the field. That happened a bunch. This game was amazing from top to bottom for me, for a person that believes in the Falcons being able to make the playoffs. And I think if you're a person who watched a football game for the first time, this game was a lot of fun. There were interceptions, there were sacks, there was a rookie wide receiver who absolutely took the top off the Falcons defense at one point, and you don't see that too often. The Steelers and the Jets, a game that we all thought, at least me personally, I thought we were going to end up with a good old-fashioned 10-7 final score. Instead, we got 66 total points out of a team led by Aaron Rodgers and Justin Fields, which is crazy because I think if you said that 5 years ago when Justin Fields was a rookie with the Chicago Bears, people would believe you. But if you said it in the year 2025, people would say, obviously, they both got hurt and the backups came in and did their job. But nope, Aaron Glenn, man, you want to talk about giving Jets fans hope. Aaron Glenn, you bastard. They came out there, they looked really good. Both of the defenses who we thought were going to be the stars of the show in this matchup gave up 30-plus points, which is absolutely horrendous, right? But for the most part, there was a lot of both teams did a great job of attacking the zone safeties for both of the teams. There was a lot of times where post routes were killing people up front. It's obviously because they have like huge wide receivers on both of these teams. DK Metcalf with the Steelers had a great game to start off with this one. There was amazing performances from the Jets running backs, which obviously creates more separation between the front seven and the secondary when they have to spend a bunch of time trying to chase down Bo Allen and trying to chase down Breece Lightning, who looked like the guy that everybody wanted him to look like last season. And that's saying a lot because the Jets still have a lot of questions about their offensive line. I think this is the first time, I think the stats showed it, this is the first time they scored 30 points in like forever or something like that. So, but yeah, the Steelers, best offensive performance we've seen since Ben Roethlisberger retired. The Jets, the best offensive performance you've probably ever seen from them, ever. If you're like 15 years old, you probably haven't seen the Jets have a day like they did for week one of this season. It was amazing. I had a ton of fun watching it because it was a great balance of people being able to pass the ball down the field and guys being able to run the ball really well. We'll see what Jaylen Warren looks like as the season goes along, though. He's in a situation where he's kind of like battling for the RB1 spot, but not really. But you know, Breece Hall and Bo Allen look like they're maybe splitting time here, but we'll see. Breece Hall looks like he's the same dynamic guy. He's just on a better team that was making motion happen. When the pass game is working, Breece Hall can get loose. Buffalo Bills, oh my gosh. Bills Ravens 41-40. If this didn't make you a football fan watching it, nothing is going to make you a football fan watching any form of football, which is understandable. You know, you do you be free, but I'll be over here having fun watching this shit. This game was amazing. Hated for Derrick Henry so much. Derrick Henry averaged almost a first down, almost 10 yards. I think it was like 9.6. 9.6 yards per carry, which sounds like some Madden shit, which most of Derrick Henry's career in life has been like a Madden game. Like most of it, he's just playing a game. You're playing football, he's playing a game. And he is basically a created player if they let you make any form or any type of football athlete. Derrick Henry is kind of the guy that most people would make, and he's getting the results that most people would get when they play on like rookie mode. Yeah, like I said, almost averaged a first down per touch in this game. Killed the Bills kills the Bills defense in the first half. And the second half, continues to kind of massacre them up front. Lamar Jackson moving the ball pretty well. I'd say Lamar Jackson did a great job of distributing the ball over the middle, which is always the most difficult place when you talk about like modern day NFL football, trying to get the ball over the middle so that it makes the defense have to stay honest. But for the most part, what happened in the second half of this game, the pass rush, and there are teams in the NFL that are like this. The first half, either their pass rush is killing it and they come out and they're just not effective, or the second half, after the adjustments, they come out there and they're just on point. And it felt like the second half, the Bills pass rush, and I think a lot of Bills fans will say this, they are so excited to see a pass rush be that successful for the Bills because it bodes well for the playoffs later on. Because let's be real, both of these teams are trying to go out here and win every single game, but they also trying to get ready for the playoffs. Both of these teams are real Super Bowl contenders, and they showed it in this matchup. This is the best game. It's just like, guys, think about it. If that was the AFC Championship game, that might have been one of the best AFC Championship games ever, right? And once again, the Bills come out here. If you want to be one of those people who's just like, this proves that Josh Allen was the real MVP the whole time, you want to be that stupid, go right ahead. But I will say I'm extremely disappointed in how what I thought was going to be the best defense in the NFL came out here and performed. They got killed. Keon Coleman looks like it might be happening. Keon Coleman, who, if you're not familiar with him, go check out any form of media with Keon Coleman. That dude is a star. Like, the second that he starts getting like Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase type numbers, he's a superstar. He is a superstar ready-made. My girlfriend knows who Keon Coleman is because I've shown her so many of his funny-ass videos where he just talks about life. Like, he has a whole video where he does a tour of the Buffalo Bills facility when he gets drafted, and he's just like, yeah, man, so, like, what's the deal? Tell me what y'all do. What y'all do to wash the uniforms? And they're like, oh, we put Tide on it, all that kind of stuff. And he's like, use the powder or use the pods? And he's like, use the powder. Yeah. That's how I know y'all really doing it. And he walks away, and I'm like, this guy is like everybody. If you're a black person, he's like the fun uncle, but he's like 24. Anyway, guy's hilarious. Can't wait to see what he's able to do. This game, he absolutely killed it. When Josh Allen needed somebody to step up, he was not like the Avatar. He appeared. So, this bodes well for Keon Coleman. I think he's going to look really good in this one. Minnesota Vikings, Chicago Bears. I put this one in the "this is what we're here for" category because if you've been paying attention to football, you know what the situation is. The Bears are in a bad spot. Some Bears fans don't believe Caleb Williams is very good. The final score in this one was 27-24. The first half of this game, J.J. McCarthy is struggling to complete passes over the middle. He's struggling with his timing with his wide receivers to try and time it up against the zone that the Bears are running. The Bears typically the last couple of years, the Bears have had a really good defense. And in this matchup, they showed not only do they still have a good defense, but J.J. McCarthy is developing. The first half of this game, he looked like a rookie quarterback, and you can clearly see the timing and the ability to deliver the ball where the wide receivers needed it most. Not just Justin Jefferson, because a lot of people could join the Minnesota Vikings and they only focus on throwing the ball to Justin Jefferson. He distributed the ball really well, and don't forget, they don't have Jordan Addison, guys. They don't have Jordan Addison, and they're still going to figure this whole thing out. Aaron Jones Sr. started to cook in the back half of this game, and the Minnesota Vikings not just making adjustments, but they got accustomed to how the game flow was going, and they started applying pressure to the Bears, who looked like they were going to kind of run away with this one at halftime, but it started to all fall apart. A lot of it is, Caleb made some bad throws. This is how it is. Caleb made some tough throws, some bad throws. They missed out on a touchdown that somebody later on came on the internet and actually said, because I've been thinking about how you throw that ball. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. You can go online, look up DJ Moore's potential touchdown, and you'll see it's a weird angle to throw the ball because DJ has the back of his head to the line of scrimmage and where Caleb will be delivering the ball from. So if you throw it over the top, he wouldn't know it was there. If you throw it to the inside, there's a chance that the safety comes over, the safety is crashing over towards the pylon, because this is like 30-something yards away, and the safety might crash over. If you throw it to the outside portion of if you throw it to the outside portion of DJ Moore's body, because he's running towards the pylon, the end zone is over here on his right, and then out of bounds is on his left. He's running at a straight line towards the pylon. If you throw it where it would be out of bounds or going towards the out of bounds line, does he turn around and does he even see it? So it's an interesting question how it all shakes out. But there was basically a football writer who came out and said there's only like 2 guys in the NFL who can make that throw, and it's Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. So, you take it where you can. That game was a lot of fun to watch. I love watching really good defenses, and that was a game of really good defenses overall. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I finished up in an hour. Literally 1 hour and 6 seconds on the clock. This is the fastest review of the NFL I've ever done. I have 20 minutes to get to the liquor store. You have the rest of the weekend, including Saturday, to watch college football. I have practice. I won't be watching college football. You guys have a great weekend. Do your thing. I don't know when you're watching this. You could be in the distant future. You could be in the distant past watching this somehow. If you're in the future, remember the deal is you need to tell me who wins the Super Bowl so that I can look at it in the past and make a bunch of money. So that's the deal here on this show. I'm Ashton Gene Lewis. This is the Broke Boy Sports Podcast. You know what to do. Stay safe out there. And most importantly, go home, Roger.